Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close at day. Rage, rage at the dying of the light. This is a common motif throughout the movie, this fight against time, this fight against death. And I think the main thing that you can grasp from Interstellar is that the way that we look at life, our worldview, actually greatly impacts how we view death. And just beneath the surface of Interstellar is actually an exploration, a critique of three different worldviews and how they interact with this whole idea of death and extinction. And those worldviews are pragmatism, rationality, and Romanticism. And we're going to see that actually each one is a little bit inadequate in the end. Now, this is a 3-hour movie. So you're here for the next 4. No. We've got a 3-hour movie with 3 distinct acts. If you're hoping that I'm going to do an in-depth word-for-word analysis of this movie, then I'm sorry. Everyone else needs to get somewhere. So we're going to have a quick look at the surface of the story, this great idea of saving humanity. And we're going to look at each of the 3 acts in the movie as we go and just explore what it has to say about that particular worldview that just lies underneath. Each worldview kind of has an explanation for evil, has an explanation of what love is and what it takes to save humanity. Okay, and then we'll have a think about why each one of those is just not quite adequate. So let's have a quick look at a clip from the movie, and then we'll go and have a look at that surface storyline.
For appropriate audiences. I love that. That's beautifully general.
We used to look up in the sky and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt.
Go for main engine start, T-10.
We must confront the reality that nothing in our solar system can help us.
9.
I've got kids, Professor. How long will I be gone?
8.
I'm asking you to trust me.
7.
Murph, you have to talk to me, Murph.
6.
Need to fix this before I go.
I'm not sure when they're coming back.
5. Main engine start.
Couldn't you have told her you were going to save the world?
4.
You can marry it.
3.
One thing becomes really clear.
2.
I just want to make sure your children feel safe.
1.
I'm coming back. I love you forever.
Potentially habitable worlds right within our reach.
Extinction.
Here we go.
You can't just think about your family, now you have to think bigger than that.
I'm thinking about my family and thinking some other families.
Maybe we've spent too long trying to figure all this out with theory. Love is the one thing that transcends time and space.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light.
Yes, you are.
We'll find a way. We always have.
Okay, so we open into a world that has been ravaged by something. We're in a world that's slowly dying. Blight has destroyed crops. humanity has moved into survival mode. And we're in a world where science and technology are no longer really trusted. NASA has gone into hiding. We're in a world that doubts that the moon landings actually happened. We're in a world that needs farmers, that doesn't need engineers. As one person says, we didn't run out of planes and television sets. We ran out of food. And the solution for the world seems to be, well, we just need more farmers, more people making food that will solve all our problems. But the NASA scientists discover the blight is taking over. One by one, it's just taking another and another plant. The dust from devastated farms is slowly suffocating the world. Professor Brand says, we weren't meant to save the world. We were meant to leave it. And so NASA invites a farmer, former pilot and engineer, Joseph Cooper, or Coop as he's known. And he's asked to leave his family behind. Now, here are the major players in the movie. You've got Coop and Dr. Brand. You've got Professor Brand. You've got Murph Cooper, the daughter of Coop. And you've got Dr. Mann. Now, Coop decides to leave. And he promised his daughter, Murph, who's clearly distraught, that he will one day return. He just doesn't know when. And so the expedition takes those astronauts, Coop and Brand and Miller and Romilly, to a new galaxy. They go through this mysterious wormhole into this new galaxy with 3 potential planets that they can survive as a humanity in. These planets have been discovered by the Lazarus explorers who went before, led by the amazing Dr. Mann.
He's so special, we can't show you his face.
There's a reason you can't see his face. There's a surprise as to who he actually is. So as they're doing the exploration, there are limited resources of fuel and time. There's a constant balancing between 2 plans, plans A and plans B. And I haven't stated it already, so I need to just say, spoiler alert. You can't understand this movie without actually going into what happens and things like that. So plan A and plan B. Plan A is to find a new planet and rescue humanity from Earth. The problem is the problem of gravity, the problem of interstellar travel can't easily be solved. We can't just take everyone on Earth and transport them into this new planet. There's a hoped solution, but it's flawed. Plan B is to find a new planet and start all over again with frozen embryos. So plan A saves humanity, plan B saves the species. So they explore these 3 planets, and planet A, the first planet, is a failure. They lose an astronaut and decades of time in exploring this planet. There's this whole time slipping and time dilation kind of thing that runs throughout the whole movie that gets a bit complex and hard to understand, but if you just go with it, essentially time becomes a resource that they need to consider. So they must choose which planet to visit next, which is going to cost them the least in terms of fuel and time so they can get back and save humanity. There's Dr. Mann's, which is closest, or there's Dr. Edmonds, who is no longer transmitting. And so, after discussion, they decide to go to Dr. Mann's planet. And they find Dr. Mann there in hibernation. But his planet is cold, it's toxic and hostile. He assures them that there's life down beneath the frozen clouds that they've landed upon. But they soon discover, spoiler, Dr. Mann has lied. And that, knowing that Coop and Brand are determined to follow Plan A and try and save humanity and therefore leave this planet and leave behind the idea of planet B. He instead decides to kill Romilly. He abandons Coop to die in a toxic environment and possibly even leave Bran behind while he goes off to try and see the species survive on another planet. But Bran rescues Coop, and as they try to stop Dr. Mann from escaping with the rest of the ship, he fails to dock and blows a hole in the ship, almost destroying it. If it's not for the amazing skills of Coop, who manages to match the spin of the ship and dock with it and save it from falling into the planet. Except now things are worse. They're drifted into the gravity of the black hole. They're going to fall into it unless they angle themselves and use the gravity of the black hole to slingshot away. But to get away, they need to jettison parts of the ship. Newton's law of, every action, there's an equal opposite reaction. So they jettison a robot who's also tasked to take measurements of the black hole as it goes in. They also jettison Coop, who sacrifices himself so Bran can escape and save the species. But there's also that slim hope that he'll be able to go into the black hole with the robot and somehow transmit the essential data missing from the equation so that Murph back home can solve the equation and get humanity off and see Plan A come to fruition. And so he plunges into the black hole, his ship breaks up, and he ejects into nothing before falling into the Tesseract. Yeah, it gets a bit weird now. The Tesseract is a three-dimensional portrayal of five-dimensional space. Of course, you knew that, right? And in this Tesseract, Cooper's actually able to interact with himself in the past, and so actually sends himself on the mission in the first place, but also is able to, more importantly, interact with Murph. He actually is able to, through the watch he gave to her just before he left, provide that necessary information she needs to solve the problem of gravity, to solve the problem of interstellar travel, so that humanity could be saved. Just as he does that, the Tesseract collapses and he's left floating outside of Saturn, where he's picked up by rangers at the last moment. The sacrifice of Coop, his figurative death and resurrection in the black hole and in the Tesseract, saves humanity. And he realizes in the end, love is the one thing that can penetrate reality. Love is the thing that can save us all. Last week I talked about the whole idea of this motif of death and resurrection not existing before Jesus. Well, it's here again, isn't it? Coop goes through the black hole through which nothing has ever escaped. He, in effect, dies and is raised again, floating off in Saturn. Love winning out, death and resurrection. These are themes that originate in the Christian gospel. These are themes that come flowing forth from what we know of Jesus in the Bible. It's interesting, but there's more to it. As we dig a little deeper into each of the acts, we're going to see that actually what's going on is not just love wins out. In each stage, there's a different conception about what love is and a different conception about what evil is, and therefore what we need to be saved from. And so as we think about the first act, the prevailing worldview is that of pragmatism. That is the concern that all we need is that which works. Okay, so whatever works, whatever's been proven to work is what we need to do. The problem is we need food. Farming produces food. We need farmers. That's pragmatism. Anything that gives you a TV or a plane or thinks about the stars is a waste of time. Pragmatism is directly opposed to idealism, which holds that there is a right way of doing things even if the result is wrong or is not what you hoped. And so humanity in the first act, concerned entirely with survival, is focused on food. If you're not quite smart enough to make the elite to be an engineer or whatever, then you're a farmer. In this world, extravagance and greed are the great evils. As Coop's father-in-law Donald says, when I was a kid, it felt like they made something new every day. Some gadget or idea. Like every day was Christmas. But 6 billion people, just try to imagine that. And every last one of them trying to have it all. Gee, that sounds familiar, doesn't it? At which point Coop replies. By the way, the events of Interstellar happen about 70 years in the future. And in a time where humanity has actually dwindled down to maybe hundreds of thousands rather than 6 billion. Coop replies to Donald and says, we used to look up and wonder at our place in the stars. Now we just look down and worry about our place in the dirt. I think that captures some dissatisfaction we have with the current sort of worldview, that we're so focused in on whatever's happening on our screen that we've forgotten to wonder. Well, if evil is extravagance, then love is duty. Duty to your family, duty to your species. But can you see how that worldview ultimately just dehumanizes us? Coop says, we've forgotten who we are, Donald. Explorers, pioneers, not caretakers. For all their pragmatism, humanity has no solution to the coming doom. The crisis is just getting worse. And there's not enough trust in what we can't see right now, in the future, in science, to know that things are doomed. Pragmatism can't save the world, it only delays the inevitable. And so the critique of pragmatism comes to an end. We need to leave this earth. As a quote, mankind was not meant to die here. We were always meant to leave the earth. The answer, we need to trust in this rational idealism that what we need to know, what we know is all that we need. Interstellar that presents this in two plans. I'll talk about plan A and plan B. Plan A is the saving of humanity from Earth. Plan B is the saving of a species. And once our heroes leave the Earth, the rest of the movie is about wrestling between the two plans, because you see, plan A is what they leave for. Plan A is about rescuing the world, saving the world. Plan B is about saving a species. As Professor Brand says, that's why plan A is more fun. But as we go on, we discover that actually plan A is a lie. Plan A was never in the mind of Professor Brand. The problem of gravity was solved before they left. They just found that they couldn't reconcile the equation. There was more needed. The data to be extracted from the inside of a black hole. It was never going to happen, and so they needed this lie to get people to leave to see plan B happen. As Dr. Mann explains, it's just too hard to ask people to sacrifice their lives to save a species. He says, evolution has yet to transcend that simple barrier. We can care deeply, selflessly for people we know, but our empathy rarely extends beyond our line of sight. The lie from Professor Brand, he says, is unforgivable. But Professor Brand was prepared to destroy his own humanity to save our species. He paid the ultimate sacrifice. To which Coop says, no, the ultimate sacrifice is being paid by the people on earth who he's given up on. You see, Dr. Mann, we're told, is the best of us. He's the one who convinced the people in the Lazarus missions to go out and to face certain death in the hope of finding the right place to live. But Dr. Mann, the best of us, can't live his worldview. He knew full well that his planet was no good. He knew full well that all he needed to do to be rescued was to push that button and send that signal saying everything was fine and that he'd be rescued. You see, his own needs for survival took over his idealism that he was somehow there to save the species. His own need for survival meant the death of Romilly and of Coop and possibly even Brand. And so man's death ends the second act, but it also ends any idea that pure, cool rationalism is the answer. See, Professor Brand and Dr. Mann, they represent this idea of this rational way of viewing the world. The idea that you just dispassionately weigh up the options and then you make a decision about what best suits or best fits the solution for humanity. Even if that solution means the death of everyone on earth, then that's where you go. For rationalism, evil is the refusal to face up to reality, the refusal to do your duty to the truth. For rational, love is just a social utility. It's just the thing that gets us to produce babies, to propagate the human race. And you might think, well, okay, rationalism, you've got a point, but it just doesn't sit right, does it? There's something missing in that worldview that just makes it abhorrent and evil. There's something missing that might just save us. And the inception for that idea is found in the middle of Act 2, in a conversation between Brand and Coop. Brand has just explained to Coop that Dr. Mann is the best of us, and how she's excited to be out here exploring these new planets, because when you go out there, you won't find evil. Sorry, I'm in the wrong bit. The other conversation Brand is having with Coop, sorry, I confused myself, where they're trying to discuss whether they go to Edmund's planet or Dr. Mann's planet. And it becomes revealed that actually Brand's got invested interest in going to Edmund's planet because she actually loved him before he left. And Brand says, yes, the fact that I loved him makes me want to follow my heart. But maybe we spent too long trying to figure this all out with theory. Coop says, you're a scientist, Brand. And Brand says, I am. So listen to me when I tell you that love isn't something we invented. It's observable, powerful. Why shouldn't it mean something? Coop. It means social utility, child rearing, social bonding, rationalism. Brand says, we love people who've died. Where's the social utility in that? Maybe it means more. Maybe it's something we can't understand yet. Maybe it's some evidence, some artifact of higher dimensions that we can't consciously perceive. I'm drawn across the universe to someone I haven't seen for a decade, who I know is probably dead. Love is the one thing we're capable of perceiving that transcends dimensions of time and space. Maybe we should trust that, even if we can't yet understand it. Cooper, yes, the tiniest possibility of seeing Wolf Edmonds again excites me. But that doesn't mean I'm wrong. And Coop replies, honestly, Amelia, it might. See, Coop is dispassionately weighing up the options. He's not letting emotions dictate what they should do. But Brand is saying, no, hang on. Maybe love is the answer. This observable quantity that seems to defy physics. Maybe love is the answer. And in Act 3, when Coop is in the Tesseract, he finally realizes love is the key. Brand was right. His love for Murph, his desire to keep his promise to his daughter, means that he is able to shape reality. He is able to come back and prove to Murph that his love is forever. He is somehow able to communicate across time through love. That same love that sent him into a black hole to figuratively die and rise again. That love that allows humanity to leave Earth to enact Plan A. And the movie portrays this as being the ultimate answer. When Coop is rescued and he sees the world that he's in, the space station that's going to their new home, Cooper's station, everything is idyllic. It's baseball in the backyard. All of humanity's problems seem to have been solved. Love was the key. Now beneath this is this romantic worldview, Romanticism. This idea that reality is more than just what we can quantify, more than just what we can measure. It's more than just what we have in our minds, what we can think about. Our feelings, and notably love, are just as important than what we can deduce logically. You see, for Romanticism, evil is actually that cold rationalism, that idea you have to remove emotions from decision making. Love is that very thing that can save us. As I've said, underneath Interstellar is this, you've got this cracking story of the salvation of humanity, but under the surface you've got these three worldviews all vying for dominance, all vying to show you that it is the one thing can save humanity. But the movie's all there to show you that pragmatism and rationalism actually don't cut it. You need romanticism. You need to hold on to the emotions and follow them, because maybe they are the key. Because pragmatism leaves us unprepared. Rationalism leads to evil, and it's unlivable. But romanticism tells you that despite our technological cleverness, we need to listen to our emotions, and particularly to love. But I think also within the movie there is a little hint that not everything in Romanticism is as it's cracked up to be. This is the other conversation that I got confused about before between Brand and Coop, where she's just shared that Dr. Mann is the best of us. And she talks about exploring these worlds. And she's excited because out there is danger and excitement, but not evil. And Coop says, nature can't be evil? And Brand says, formidable, frightening, but not evil. And Coop says, so the only evil is what we bring with us? And Brand says, well, this crew represents the best aspects of humanity. And Coop says, even me? Brand says, hey, we agreed 90% honesty. Even there you see, not everything is right. Now, Dr. Mann is the best of us, according to Brand. But we've been shown in the movie that Dr. Brand is actually even the best of us. He's tainted by evil, tainted by some promotion, some selfishness that leads to evil. Even the best of us, the movie says, hides evil in our heart. But also, if evil is only what we take with us, then love that saves humanity in the movie actually falls short of saving us truly. Because even though Dr. Mann is dead, the evil that we take with us is still there. Despite the idyllic scenes in that space station, evil is still real. It's still with us. Coop's love hasn't solved evil. You see, our love has released us to the stars, but our evil has actually kept us grounded. Pure reason, following our hearts, we see that they're not actually the answer. Now, the Bible's actually got two interesting things to say about this. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Jeremiah 17 and verse 9. And from Romans, the mind of flesh is death, but the mind controlled by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind of the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Those controlled by the flesh cannot please God. Our minds are hostile to God. Our hearts deceive us again and again. See, Dr. Mann was actually able to convince himself that what he was doing was right. What he was doing was in the best interest of humanity, of saving the species. What he was doing was killing Coop, killing Romany, abandoning Brand to this world. Haven't there been times when you've done something that you convinced yourself at the time was right, but then on reflection you thought, actually, I was wrong there. That wasn't the right call. You see, in the end, our hearts and our minds, they're not completely trustworthy. There are things that we miss. We need more if we're to be saved. Our love is not powerful enough to overcome evil, but God's love is. This next quote from the Bible says, "But God proves his own love for us in that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. For if while we were enemies, we were reconciled to God through the death of his Son, then how much more, having been reconciled, will we be saved by his life?" In love, God deals with evil. He sends Jesus to die for us. He rises him again from the death, and so delivers us from evil. Humanity's only hope of ridding itself from evil isn't in our mind, isn't what's in our heart. It's actually already been done for us by God in the sending of Jesus, in his death, and in his resurrection. What is humanity's hope? It's not our cool rationalism. It's not just doing what works. It's not even following our hearts. It's actually trusting in the one who loves us so much that he died for us and rose again to give us new life. The love of God shown in Jesus is our only hope.